You sit on top of that piece of equipment, that gray thing right there if you want.
Okay.
That's okay. You sit on top of that. Oh, you have to record me?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, gosh. Oh.
Sorry, Rodgers. If I need to do like a color print, what is the best way to do that again? Is there a way to go to that office and do it?
You'd have to email it to me or Janisha, and then we'll print it.
Okay. Okay. Do you mind if I do that really quickly? Sorry. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. I just want to thank you for letting me using your time and giving you questions. Okay. First of all, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Kellie Rodgers. You want my work?
Yes.
Okay. I'm a program manager for quality and compliance here at UT Southwestern in the Department of Radiation Oncology. I've been here almost 10 years.
Okay. So, first I would like to ask, what is your level of education or your degree that you have?
I have a master's degree in health service management. I have a bachelor degree in radiologic science, and then I have like 3 different associates, a certification for radiography, and a certification for radiation therapy.
Okay. Do you do any recruitment for UT Southwestern?
I do not currently. No, I don't really do any recruitment. I have a small group of people that report to me. Currently I have 4. May expand that to 5 soon. Whenever I do need to hire people, then I work with university human resource department to find good candidates.
Okay. What do you find as a good candidate?
That's a good question. Of course, there are going to be some requirements of the job description itself, so we have to make sure that they do meet those requirements. I like people who are experienced, if possible, but people who are enthusiastic, who are who are friendly, who are prompt with any correspondence or any kind of meetings and things like that. I think those are good qualities. Just people who are ready to learn and to grow professionally are the kind of people that interest me most.
Okay. I'll get into some of your personal background.
Okay.
What year did you graduate high school?
1987.
Okay. What about the year of graduating college?
Let me look up there. That was 1993 when I finished the master's degree, I believe. Oh wait, no, that was 1997 when I finished the master's degree. It must have been 93 when I finished the bachelor degree. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so as a young kid, were you pushed to go to college, and like college being the biggest thing for you?
Yes, it was. Neither of my parents went to college. My dad worked for International Paper, and he just went in like in high school and worked there for like almost 50 years. And then my mother, she didn't go to college. She was a hairdresser, went to beauty school. They early on, teachers would tell them that I was good in school and I made good grades. I made straight A's throughout school. And they just expected that I would do well and that I would go to college. And they wanted me to have opportunities that they didn't have. And so I did go to college on some scholarships, and I did go to some local places so that it wouldn't cost as much. I tried to be very cost effective with my education, but still, get the best I could.
Okay. So, in the field that you work in now, did you get a college degree in the field that you work in now?
I have a certification for the radiation therapy piece, but for the hospital health service management, which is pretty much kind of what I do as a program manager, that's where my master's degree applies.
Okay. So, so let's say, let's give a situation. So let's say, like you said, you want someone experienced, right? So let's say we have a candidate that has experience, but we also have a candidate that's straight out of college. with a degree. Which one would you pick and why?
It depends on the individual at that point. There are other factors to consider. People who have experience certainly have value, but it doesn't mean that they're necessarily right for the job. It depends on what kind of work they've been doing, whether or not that aligns with the job I'm trying to fill. If it does, then it can be an edge. But if I have a person who's right out of school and who's new, which actually the last two people that I think that I've hired have been new, so they were not terribly experienced, but I feel like they were capable and they were willing. You know, they just had that enthusiasm of doing the job. They wanted to learn some things. I knew a little about both of them through other people, so I knew kind of their work history and what kind of work they've been doing, which was also in healthcare. But this particular job was just a new role. So when I look at their experience and then sort of knowing healthcare, the system, and then learning the new part that they were going to be hired for, it just made me feel like that they were ready for this new challenge. And so that was what led me to choose them. So either one can work, but those are some of the things that I think are important.
Okay. So what is the minimum degree that you have, or the minimum level of education that you have to work in radiation oncology or at UT period?
Gosh, I mean, I don't know for UT period. There's going to be a ton of jobs that I don't know anything about. Now for our department, even in our department, I don't know like what the requirements for nursing are. I can tell you the requirements for radiation therapist. They have to be accredited or certified and from the national registry. The American registry group has to give them the credentials. They also have to be licensed by the state of Texas, so they have to have both of those in order to go out there and work. And in order to sit for the board so that you can become certified, you have to have a certain number of years of schooling through an accredited program. Some programs are 1 year. The one I went to was actually 1 year. I don't think there are many of those anymore. They have 2-year programs now, and they have 4-year programs. So once you go through a program, then you become board eligible, and then you can go sit and take the test, and if you pass it, then you're ready to go out in the world and treat.
So is it more of a skill based or more of a education based?
It's both. I mean, they split their time pretty much 50-50 between the clinical time. They actually are out on the machines and with the therapist out there working. They're treating patients. They're you know, like people, unless you told patients, they might think they were staff. You know, they're out there right side by side. But then there's also the other 50% of the time that they're in the classroom. They've got the books open, they're reading, they're learning, they're taking tests, all that kind of stuff. So you get both. You get the didactic and you get the clinical experience.
Okay. Okay, so so when you received your college degree, what did you do? Did you go straight into work, or how was the process?
Mine was sort of pieced along. I had started working. I went to school right out of high school. I went for 3 years to a junior college where I received my 3 different associate degrees. Then I decided I wanted to go to X-ray school. So I went to X-ray school for 2 years, and became certified as an X-ray tech. Then I went immediately into 1 year of therapy school. Then I became a therapist. And during that time that I was in X-ray school and therapy school, I was working on my bachelor's degree, sort of simultaneous. So then I finished my bachelor's degree, and I was already working as a therapist at that point.
Okay.
And so then I worked for a therapist for, a year or so, and decided I'm going to keep going. And then I started working on my master's degree while I was still working as a therapist. And I've worked as a therapist for, I guess it was about 18 years. And then I switched over and started doing the compliance piece that I do now.
Okay.
That's been about 3 years.
Okay. So I recently, when I was doing my research on if a college degree is effective and is it really important, I seen that there's over 100,000 college grad with a that work a minimum wage job now. Uh, and so his have you ever worked a minimum wage job
Oh yes, yes, I did.
out of college?
No.
Okay.
No, and I understand what you're saying, and I hear about that too. And for me, the direction I went, it was a very specialized field, and there were not a lot of people. It's so small. A lot of people don't even know about it until they have the unfortunate, occasion to come see us as a patient or with a family or friend. But I had knew some people through the X-ray, school that told me, oh, you should check into therapy. And so when I did, I liked what they were doing, and I liked the technology, and I liked the patient care that it provided. And I didn't have to handle needles. I don't like needles or blood. There's not a lot of blood. So that was good for me. So, it was a job that was in healthcare, but it had good hours. It was like a day job, and you didn't have to do a lot of call. There's some, but not a lot. It's not really an emergency type of job. We didn't have to do nights or weekends or holidays, and I thought, ooh, this is the one, and put all that together, and so I looked into it, and I just felt like it was a good fit for me. But it was, like I say, at the time, there was a shortage of therapists. So I knew when I went into this, I was going to have a job when I got out, because they were paying people lots of money to work, because they were having a lot of overtime, because there just wasn't enough of them. Now what happened though, a few years after I finished my schooling, and of course, thank goodness I was employed, there was another program here in Texas that instead of having these small classes, which is what they'd always done, like in my class there were maybe 5 or 6 people. Here at UT, it's a small class, I think there's 5 in the class. This one program, they graduated 50 in a year, flooded the market. These people couldn't find jobs. It's all about, finding a field where there's going to be opportunity. And, some fields, or some degrees are so general. Like if you get a degree in business, that's pretty broad. That might be harder to find than if you really, drill down and you have a very unique skill set, and you kind of look at the market and you see where the needs are. And I think that helps people trying to avoid going to college and then getting out and not finding, job. I mean, some degrees, they're very popular. Everyone wants to do that, and then when you get out and you try to find jobs, it's so competitive that there's going to only be a few that get the jobs, and then the rest are they're gonna struggle. So, that's what I found with my part. It was a good thing for a long time with that demand, but it's all about the market demand.
Okay, so do you have any sons or daughters that are in college now?
I have no children.
You have no children?
No children.
Oh.
No, that's okay. It was by
that was
choice.
your son right
Oh
there.
no, that's my. I have 3 nephews.
Okay. Sure.
And no, the oldest one is 16, or about to be 16, and he has struggled in school, and I just don't know if he will. If he'll want to do college. I might see him more as doing a trade school, something like that. I think academics are tough on him, so we'll see which direction he goes. But I want him to find something that he likes, something that there is an opportunity for him to be productive and make a nice living and enjoy his work.
Okay. So yeah, I don't want to go into his personal situation, but let's speak on that more. A situation where we have a student that's not likely qualified for college, but what do you think are the ways, if this person can become successful in the world?
Well, just like in particular with this nephew of mine, his family, this is on my husband's side, they own a pest control business. It's a small family-owned pest control business. But my nephew, he likes bugs. He's not afraid of them. Me, I don't want any part of that. I don't want to crawl up under houses. I don't want to get up into spider webs. I don't want that. But they don't bother him. He's good with them. It's something he doesn't mind. So for me, when I think about him, he's got an opportunity to own his own business, you know, because of the particular family situation that he's in. Because, you know, if he wants to grow up and learn about the chemicals and take all the tests that are required to get his license to actually spray houses and all that, which he's certainly capable of doing, then he gets potentially to be a small business owner, to set his own schedule, to really, that's a great thing. I mean, that's something that a lot of people would really want, just because his family happens to already have that going. So I hope that he will at least try to kind of step into that, because that could be something that would keep him employed and doing something that he likes. He likes bugs. He likes being outside. You know, he's okay with that. But he's not really that great with people. I think that's where he would have to learn and grow how to talk to people, and you know, he's just kind of shy. But he's going to come stay with us this summer for maybe 6 weeks, and me and my husband are going to try to help bring him out a little bit of his shell and get him to be more engaging and stuff.
Okay. So with things like that, communication skills, people skills, working skills, those things are not taught in college, or do you think those things are taught in college?
You're asking me to dig way back. You know, probably not. I think you're right. They aren't. They should be. I think those are things that come sometimes from family, from friends, you know, just being in social activities at school. I think that there is a gap there for a lot of people, just socially, how to interact, how to engage, how to, you know, put yourself out there in the best possible way. It's not always easy, and it's not something that necessarily comes natural to a lot of people. Some people have to really work at that, and some people, it's just who they are. You know, you just, you know, you can't beat it. But I think that there should be perhaps some sort of assessment that's done, and an opportunity for people who aren't as comfortable, you know, out in the public eye and talking and, you know, getting to know others, to help them with that. It could really truly help on interviews and getting into first jobs and stuff. Okay.
Now relating this to a college education, I know this has been a long time for you, but coming out of college, what were some of the things that that college didn't teach you and you had to learn by yourself?
You know, I think a lot of things were just general relationships. In fact, it's interesting you bring that up. I teach 4 classes to the therapy students here in our program, and one of them is called Managing People. And this is an elective. It's not anything that's on their boards or anything like that, but the program director, you know, asked me a few years ago to teach this, and I really think it's great. You know, whether or not they love it as much as I do or find the value in it, I don't know. They seem to. But the whole class is geared around helping them to go into a job and to build a good relationship with their boss. I teach them things like, you know, orientation, you know, what to expect in orientation, what their responsibilities should be, what their boss's responsibilities are, just so that everyone kind of has an understanding of how that's going to work. We talk about performance appraisals, like what to expect when you have your first evaluation, you know, and they're giving you your raise or not giving you your raise, you know, kind of how that process works, and, you know, just some fundamentals of that. You know, we talk about, you know, ways that, like we talk about budgets, you know, just so that people understand what those processes are and how they can ask the right questions and they can do things that are helpful to their boss, just to keep that relationship good. But a lot of times it's not that people don't want to do a good job, or they just don't understand all, you know, the other side of things. So I try to bridge that gap. So when they go into a job, they can, you know, can help their boss and help themselves and make that relationship, you know, fruitful and pleasant. So, I mean, it is something I'm really happy that they're doing. I hope that it helps. I hope that the things I tell them are good things for them.
Okay. Coming from your background knowledge and of the job market today, Do you really think a college education is necessary?
I do. I think that there's just a great value there. I will encourage, my nephews to get it. That's one thing, my parents told me growing up, get all the education you can. No one can ever take that away from you. And that's been my, my progression. I was a student, for 10 years after, from 87 to 97, I was in either classes or programs, and they crossed over, and I just gave that 10 years to education. I still had some fun, don't get me wrong, but I studied a lot, and I was working part-time too, and I just I knew that was the time that I needed to do that was my focus, and that I would have the rest of my life to have income and go and have fun and play and all that. But during those years, I just really put my education first. And, I just found ways to, I didn't put myself in debt to do it. I did scholarships. I worked part-time to pay my way through some things too. And I chose programs that were not terribly crazy expensive. And it worked, and I was blessed that I was able to get through that, and I had a lot of support. I lived at home, for several years of it. But I definitely encourage people to get whatever kinds of education they can, whether it's college or whether it's trade school, or, because for me, my radiation therapy degree was not college. That was a certificate program. So you can still do things that aren't necessarily labeled as college that have great reward. You just have to find what it is you want to do, and then find out what the options are to get through that. But do get education.
Okay. So you have a lot of people that work here and that do come to out of college. So how do you feel about like see one?
Sorry.
It's okay.
Make sure you got the email.
Oh, did you send it to me?
Yeah, I sent it to you. I didn't know your email. I can forward it.
Hang on, I'm so sorry.
I'm so
One
sorry.
second.
What's your first name?
We're coming.
Okay, perfect. Okay, you're here. Sorry.
Okay, so dealing with people that have an education, a more modern education, and you having a more traditional education, how do you feel about the cost of the education? Do you think that they're getting the same thing, or that they're getting more for their value?
Well, I don't know that I can really clearly answer that, as I am not completely sure what you're meaning by my education versus someone from today. Explain a little more about that.
Okay, so then your education is I don't want to say old, but more how do I say it?
I mean, I understand that when I went to college, it was
Different.
back in the 90s. Yes. And
so then your education is from the 90s, and you work with some people that's educational from the 2000s.
Right.
How do you feel like? Do you think that dealing with the difference in education is there? Do you think there's a difference, or?
I don't know. I mean, the people I see, they're primarily nurses and therapists, and the fundamentals of what we do in those fields, I don't think it's changed a lot. I do think, I kind of see what you're talking about, though, just like with this program here, where they've added these courses like these, the ones I'm teaching, which we didn't have anything like that. We didn't have anyone telling us, that you need to do this. And I think that there are some differences. I can't really say that one's better than the other, the people are different.
Okay.
I mean, because like the Generation X and the Generation Y and the millennials and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So the world is different. The technology is different. I don't know that I can boil it down to the education being vastly different in this particular field. That may be broader out there, but me, I just don't know that I can tell you there's a great big difference.
Okay. We're getting to the end. So I recently read an article on Bill Gates. Bill Gates was not a college graduate when he first worked with Microsoft. And the article said that Bill Gates has this program. I think it's innovative. I don't really know the name, but he said that people should have more skill-based training than just a regular traditional college education, because they don't help you in the real world. So how do you feel about that?
I think that's probably very true. I know for our field, the skill-based is very much, at the forefront. It's not like that with a lot of things. I can give you an example. My husband, he works at another healthcare facility, and he's a director of financial reporting. So he's, running spreadsheets and databases, and he's doing all this kind of work. And he's had a hard time hiring people, because these people that are coming out of college that are new to the workforce, they don't have the skill set. They can't sit down and do what he needs them to do. They can't do a VLOOKUP. They can't do, put together a database the way he needs them to. They don't know how. So they may know what it is, but that skill set, like you're talking about, isn't really there. So I can see where that applies to what Bill Gates is saying, is that they may sit in a class and they may talk about, various, business related things, but as far as someone showing them how to do these things and making them proficient, it's not happening, or at least he hasn't come across it. He's had a hard time finding people. So there is a gap there.
And going in the future, in 10 more years, let's say we jump ahead 10 more years, do you think that a college education will still be important as it is now, or is it losing its value?
That's a tough question. I mean, the way technology is going, there have to be people out there that can support it. So whether or not that requires a real college education or technical training or whichever avenue it goes, I think that I'm just pro education. I really am, and I'm always going to think there's a lot to be gained from, going to classes and learning things, learning history, learning, English. I mean, we're taking all these shortcuts now, and the way we text, and we don't spell words the same way anymore, and it's, you just start to see more and more of these shortcuts, and I think there's a place for it. But I see it kind of starting to spill over into the professional world. I mean, I'll get an email from someone that's got these shortcuts, and I'm thinking, not here, don't do that here. Text me later and, say that. But and that's probably the old school part of me, that I think that there's a professional world that needs to stay professional. And, I want people to be well spoken. I want people to be able to communicate well. I want people to have that work ethic that, that I have, and that I think that I have anyway, and that, that I expect in others. And I don't want things to get too casual. I mean, I want things to be comfortable for everyone, but not where, you lose sight of the work you're doing. And it may just simply be the field I work in. I mean, if I worked, at Google and things are more relaxed and that atmosphere works fine for them, but in healthcare, doing what we do here, which has to be precise and it has to be focused, and the attention has to be there, I'm going to want people to have those qualities that I think you learn in school.
Okay, that's the end.
Oh, okay.
I just want to say thank you for your time.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. I hope that it made sense. I hope that it was helpful to you. You kind of made me think a little more. I'm used to thinking, but I'm glad that this is something that you're interested in. It's good stuff.
All right,
All right, you bet.
Can I have you sign just a simple one?
Sure.
So you'll sign here, here, here.
Okay.